Shard's on the way, and then we'll have our quorum. We're going to start the meeting with the invocation, so would you please rise? Lord, we just thank you so much for this day. We thank you, God, that you're in control of all things. We thank you, God, that you've brought Jay Tusa to us, and that we just ask, God, that you give him the ability and the wisdom to run this department. We ask, God, that even in this busy season, Lord, where there's so many people and so many things to deal with, that you'll give us the know-how of how to move this county forward. We ask all these and give us wisdom and guidance as we go forth in this meeting today. In Jesus' name, amen. Let's pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll now have open the meeting, and we'll have a quorum call. Brian is not here with us today. Tim, I know, is at a mosquito control conference. Gary's here. Kurt's here. Jennifer's here. Jim's on his way, Jim Richard, and Pam is not here. We're going to move on down to the reports because we don't have to make motions on that. So could I have Taylor Engineering? Matt, are you here? Great to see you again.
Great to see you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, council members. Just a quick update from our last meeting. As I've mentioned, we are in a bit of a critical situation here with the HSDR project being tabled. We had a few ideas for how to ensure Walton is prepared for any coastal disaster that may come forth. Some of those included the development of a storm response plan, investigating avenues for obtaining those permits that have already been reviewed but were not issued. And we marched those forward to the Beach Management Committee. We discussed them, and we received support from the Beach Management Committee that they recommended that we come to the TDC and then follow on to the BCC. And the recommendation was that we hold a public workshop. We inform all of the beach property owners and anyone else interested in the beach management about our specific course. And what that course would entail is primarily the development of a storm response plan. We would go into the details of what that plan would be, and then ultimately investigate the permit issuance and have those permits issued by not only the DEP, but also go ahead and have the Corps of Engineers issue their authorization to Walton County specifically. That would give us all the tools in the toolbox, so we'd be much better prepared should a storm come along. So that's a recommendation we're looking for now, and I guess that's under item 160775 that Brian will be doing later. Okay. So we will be looking for your support on that recommendation to take it to the BCC, but if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Right. I noticed when I was riding the beach, there's a lot of erosion. So in this workshop, will we deal with that? I mean, it was like houses and the cliff, literally. So
yeah, Brian's got some nice photos that we went through with the Beach Management Committee, and I think folks are starting to realize that what we once thought was a well-established, stable coastal system is very vulnerable, and it's not any one particular event. I know we've got a tropical storm out there now that's coming ashore. We're actually very fortunate. We've got some increased swell, but we've got some offshore winds, so there's not really any storm surge associated with that storm. However, if it were just shifted a little bit further east, we'd have a lot of heavy south winds and another 2 to 4 feet of surge. So the erosion you're seeing now could be much, much worse. But yes, we will address that, and specifically we're looking at, in the storm response plan, how can we do some more surveys, quantify that erosion, make sure folks are aware of where that erosion is occurring, and that'll give us the better data to make some more informed decisions.
Right. And without the restoration, the FEMA would not automatically click in. We would have to do the restoration before we could get FEMA funds after a storm. Is that correct? Or
yes, for FEMA reimbursement of a full restoration event, we would need to have an engineered beach in place. So in the western portion of the county, from the county line over to the Sandestin area, we do have an engineered beach restoration in place. So we would be available for FEMA funding there should a disaster recovery assistance program be initiated. But over on the eastern end, unfortunately, no.
Okay.
So.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Any questions from the audience? Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, Zender Communications.
Good morning. I'm Catherine Simon with Zender Communications, and I will be giving you the some highlights from April and May, our advertising efforts. We'll go ahead and start with our media overview. Our co-op program continues to perform very, very well. We're still seeing a ton of leads come in from that Oprah placement that we had. Reader service listings running in 750,000 publications that go to our key Visit Florida markets. Our sweeps also performed really well this month. Our partner was Residence Inn with over 5,600 entries and over 2,600 leads. So our partners continue to see great benefits from those placements. Our media team is constantly looking for opportunities to place in high-end publications that target our audience in our specific markets, especially publications and issues that allow us to speak to more of that beyond the beach, everything else that we have to offer here in South Walton. So we were able to secure a placement with Bon Appetit, which allows us a full-page ad in the May issue, and then we also secured an advertorial placement and an email blast to make sure to continue those touch points with that audience, and those are going to run in the subsequent months. Speaking of added value, we always strive to ensure that for every dollar we place, we get another dollar in free coverage for the destination. We are now over $2.6 million in our placements, and that's total value of 65% of our media buy. Two noteworthy placements this month. We were included in the in Travel and Leisure's Best of Florida online series, and also actually a road trip series on Bon Appetit's website. Our digital co-op plan began in April and continues through June, and you'll see that all of our partners are trending towards our click goals, and so we make sure to not only guarantee a certain number of clicks, but also have a goal that's a little bit higher than that, so we're making sure to deliver on that for our partners. Our brand digital campaign continues to perform well over industry averages, and especially within those click-through rates. As you've seen in the past few updates from us, the weather.com branded backgrounds continue to be our top mobile placement. And then this month, we saw our raft ad perform best on desktop. On beach safety, that started in March and will run through August 31st, promoting the education and signups for our text program. Runs on Facebook, Pandora, Spotify, and is geo-targeted to people within this market. So it continues to perform very well. And on search engine marketing, that's our Google AdWords. We continue to outperform industry averages and our goals month over month. So that's doing really well as well. On the creative front, we continue to develop visually stunning and diverse elements to really transport any audience to the destination, no matter where we are. And one really great piece that we have an update on is we've developed this brand activation elements for our performing arts season sponsorship at the Cynthia Woods Mitchell Pavilion in the Woodlands. And so we are sponsoring the entire season, and we are there with representatives from agency and staff for the events. And this is you'll see the unfolded version of the backdrop. It is actually two different pieces. Another example of that here, in front of the backdrop, we've placed a 30A paddleboard and a YOLO bike, and people are able to come up and take photos with it. And the way that the backdrop is set up, it looks like you're at the beach when you take a photo. And if they use hashtag Visit South Walton, they're entered to win the paddleboard and the bike, which we'll announce at the end of the season. And you'll see our littlest visitor here at the first event. Also for this activation, we've added a very cool element in the form of a social media activated vending machine. So if you are standing in front of the vending machine and use a custom code that pops up on the machine, it will vend a swag item to you. And it allows video play, so it plays our video when it's in its idle state, and then that is a 46-inch touch screen. So it's very cool. We've seen some great excitement around it. And people always love free swag. So as I said, TDC staff and agency staff are there to facilitate photo taking, talk to people about the destination, obviously, and then help with step-by-step through the vending machine. Since we're always looking to promote shoulder season and all of the great offerings beyond the beach, we have also developed a 30-second brand lifestyle video to rotate into our media buys that require 30-second videos. We do have our fantastic TV spots, but this allows us to also tell a little bit more of the story when it's appropriate during the season. So we have that to play for you guys as well. So as you see, it touches on a lot of Beyond the Beach elements, and we are most recently have placed that in our Emeralds, Florida placements, and then we'll also use it in our reserve spending campaigns that are running August and September of this year. We've also developed new signature events creative for our May events. First was digital graffiti, and secondly, Art Week. And then on the social media strategy and performance front, all of our channels continue to show consistent growth. Instagram, as you've seen in all of our updates, is just continuing to grow by an exponential amount, actually eclipsed Twitter in April. So that is definitely a really great channel for us to use as well. Here you'll see year-over-year growth for all of our channels. And then here is the page performance index chart, which is we monitor on an ongoing basis. It reports on paid, organic, reach, and social and engagement. This continues to grow. You'll see we have increased over the last couple of months based on our paid media and reserve spending running. It's getting back to evened out levels at this point. And that is all. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions of board? Any comments? Glad you're here, Jim.
Thank you.
Any questions from the audience? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Catherine. Okay, could we have Downs and St. Germain? Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Philip Downs, and this is Rachel Powell, our research director. We're going to be presenting the results of the winter visitor tracking, and then just mention that we've done a couple of other economic impact studies for events. You are familiar with what we're doing here in terms of tracking. We track a broad range of indices, and in this report we're offering something a little different since we've been in this market now for nearly 2 years. We're starting to track season to season, and this gives statistics from 2015 winter versus 2016 winter. A lot of information here, but if you look at RevPAR, that's up 7.1%. That tracks nicely with TDT collections, which are up 7.8%, and that tracks nicely with direct spending, up 7%. So it's a good news story. And off of that slide, I'll draw your attention to median household income, 120,000 in 16, up from 117,000. So we continue to track a few more visitors, but the key is we're attracting the right type of visitor, the upscale visitor. And that increased household income translates to an increase in direct expenditures, up from 4083 in 15 to 4253 in 16. Very nice stat at the top right there, 96% say they'll return. I know we get concerned about we have too many people in the spring and the summer. This is winter data, and the folks who come here are very satisfied. These are the origin markets. We continue to attract from the southeast, but we have people coming in obviously from the Midwest as well. And these are the things that people do. They come here to eat at our fine restaurants, relax and unwind, shop, go to the beach.
So I'm just going to get into a couple of details about our winter visitors 2016. You can see that visitors traveled in a party of about 3.5 people, and about 3 in 10 traveled with children. So this percentage is a little bit lower than our other seasons. More people are traveling as couples than with families in the wintertime. This is a breakdown of origin of winter visitors. You can see that the drive market is strong, with the highest percentage of people being from Atlanta, but we also have pretty high percentages of people being from further away markets, such as Dallas or Houston. And when we look at the breakdown of origin in terms of states, you can see that the top states, they're all in the southeast, but we do have pretty high percentages of people coming from the Midwest. You can see Illinois, Michigan, Missouri, all up there as well. In the winter, you can see that the majority of people drove to South Walton, that percentage being at 87%. And the typical visitors spend about 6.5 nights here, but when we include visitors who stay longer than a month in that average, that number increases significantly to over 14 nights here. You can also see that about 1/4 of visitors were first-time visitors here, so that highlights the importance of continuing to attract new people to the area. And then just looking at our loyalty percentage, almost half of people who were here during the winter had been here more than 10 times. So this percentage is extremely high, and it's actually higher than that of any other DMO that we currently work with. People give South Walton significantly high ratings as well. Nearly all people say they're going to return to the area.
This next slide's a little busy, but I'll talk about 2 things off of here. This is the importance of vacation attributes versus how they rate South Walton. And one of the issues here, value for your travel dollar, we don't rate as high as the importance of that issue, but on the other hand, we are an upscale destination, and no upscale destination achieves this bar. A piece of good news here, customer service, we have always been a bit challenged meeting the importance of that, and that's the 3rd attribute down from the top, and we are narrowing the gap there. So if you look at the 96% of the people who say they'll return, you look at the 9.0 rating of their experience here, and then you look at the customer service rating, those are all great numbers. So here's the breakdown of spending. Spending is up 4% over last year, and comparatively more spending on accommodations. %20 of our visitors use the term South Walton. So we continually have that challenge of getting people to start using the brand name. And that percentage has been fairly stable over the last 15 months. Here are the things that they do, and we covered that before. They go to our restaurants, they unwind. They've been to lots of our beach areas, and then our typical visitor is mid-50s, makes $120,000 a year. So that's an overview, and then we convert this to GIS maps, and we'll look at a few of these, and these are from the data from the last 2 winters of surveying visitors. And this is spend per trip with the darker colors being higher. So you see the further away markets like DC and Baltimore, Cincinnati, and so on. The spending is nearly $4,000 per trip. And you can contrast that with down at the bottom, some of our closer markets like Tallahassee and Panama City and Destin. Those folks are spending less than $1,000 per trip here. Now, there are a couple of things that come into play here. One is the length of the trip. So people from further away are spending more time here, Detroit, Minneapolis, roughly 2 weeks. And then you contrast that with the bottom, Tallahassee, Dothan, and so on, just a couple of days. So that's one of the variables that drives how much people spend here. But the other is household income, which we'll get to in a few maps. Here is a first-time visitor map. We're getting very high percentages of first-time visitors from some of those faraway markets like Houston, Dallas plays in there, some of the Midwest markets. And then you go way down at the bottom and you can see that we're getting very few first-time visitors from markets like Dothan and Panama City. An interesting stat is in the middle there. If you can pick out Atlanta, which is about in the middle, 1 out of 5 visitors from Atlanta is a first-time visitor. So we haven't penetrated, or we haven't saturated Atlanta. We're still getting new folks coming in from Atlanta. Our loyalists, the 45% of winter visitors who have been here more than 10 times, that's an outstanding figure. That demonstrates how much they enjoy coming here. But in some markets, for example, that percentage is much higher. Then we look at the percent who flew. Obviously, our faraway markets like DC, Dallas, Houston have high percentages, and then we go way down. Household income, I mentioned that this is a driver of how much they spend. I think this is very enlightening. We have markets like DC and Houston, which are up around 200,000 household income for our visitors. And then we go down, and Tallahassee's not a poor city, but the household income of visitors from Tallahassee is under 100,000. Same with Panama City, Destin, and Jackson. So this is information that can certainly be channeled into marketing activities. And then we had a presence at the South Walton Food and Film Festival and the Marvel of Flight up into Funiac Springs, and we have some economic impact results of that, and that will be published after this meeting. So are there any questions?
Any questions from the board?
Thank you.
Any questions from the audience, comments? Great. I think our best kept secret is certainly out, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We're going to go back now to the beginning of the agenda, and do we have any public comments on any agenda items? Any public comments? Seeing none, we are moving to the approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion? Okay, Brian, and then a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, any opposed? So the minutes passed. The financial report, Melissa or Jason?
Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman. My name is Jason Kutcher. I'm the Director of Administration. And I'm going to go over a couple of slides. The first slide is the TDC financials for the month of April 2016. I know it's a little hard to see and it's very small font, but the first and second cent is in the top block, and we've spent 23% in operations out of that. The next one's the third cent is the contingency contracts, monitoring, items like that for the beach nourishment, and we've spent 12% in that. One after that is our shoulder season and product development. That's the one we've spent the most in because a lot of that happens at the very beginning of the year, trying to do the promotion. And we've spent 51% in that. The half penny at the end, the emerging markets, we've spent 22%. In our reserve account, our balance is $51,050,881. Our visitor center sales is up, and I know Pam will go over that more. Any questions on that one? The next one is the TDT report. This is our breakdown in our TDT tax. In April, we received $1,606,706.82. That's up by 6.08% from 2015. And year to date is $6,579,706.82. That is up by 12.01% from 2015. So it definitely shows an increase in the visitation. Any questions? I'm sorry, sir. It's by rate. As far as that goes, yes, the percentage that's actually taken in, not the count itself. It was a odd Easter day this year, but overall trending is up. And that's another sheet that shows that again shows the April compared to last year's figures. Last year's was up by 17, but we're increased above that this year by 6%. The next are some updates. For me, it's tentative budget schedule. Today, we'll present the draft budget for comments to the council on the 15th. Comments and inquiries are due to staff from the TDC. On the 7th and the 11th are budget workshops that are scheduled for the BCC. And then on the 2nd, TDC admin presents a final budget to the TDC council at that time. The next item is under new business, and we would like to request comment and recommendations for draft budget and authorize the staff to present the draft budget to the Board of County Commissioners in the upcoming 2 budget workshops that you saw above. And everybody received the budget and the draft budget, and it's laid out. The biggest thing I want to say is I appreciate the directors that helped me on this. This is definitely coming in and being new. This is definitely a challenge, but their spending plan, they worked hard and was on mark with it. The average is about a 5% increase in most areas, even though we have a modest trend of about 10% predicted to achieve this year. Staffing, additional staffing, and increasing sales in the shoulder seasons to try to draw in more was a bigger push on many of that avenues. To break down each one of the different pennies in the 9,000 account, which will be your admin, marketing, and sales. Last year, we asked for $9,151,331. This year, we're asking for $9,995,045. That's an increase by $843,714. That is that increase in staffing. That is the increase in the shoulder season and marketing to groups. And on the 9010 account, we actually have a decrease. That was part of the beach management. It was decreased by $2,693,138. And that was due to a really good detailed spending plan that Brian did for the beach aspect of it. And also, in the past, a lot of the reserve capital expenditures were budgeted and put in that year high in the past couple of years. So this year, we didn't need to do that. And that was something I worked close with Melissa on to look at what we really needed. And on the 4th cent, which would be the products and development area, we had an increase by $274,413. And then on the half a penny in the emerging markets, we had a decrease by $49,000. And some of the items are trending along with exactly what we allotted to see to be a good detailed spending plan, and not so much an overestimate as far as that goes. Tried to keep it very conservative with the spending.
We're going to back
Yes.
up.
Okay.
We're going to back up to make a motion for the financial report, and then we'll make.
Yeah, well, yes, ma'am.
So if we could back up just a second and make and I didn't want to interrupt you because you had a flow going. So the financial report, could we have a motion to approve the financial report?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, and a second? Second. Okay, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? None. So now we'll move down to the. I was sitting here. I was sitting here very patient because yes. So now we're moving down to the draft budget. Are you finished with that? And then we'll.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we need a motion to approve the draft budget and authorize the staff to present the draft budget to the BCC.
If we have questions, should we wait till the workshop or?
Let's go ahead and make the motion and the second, and then we'll entertain questions right now.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion to approve this process and the draft budget and to authorize to go to the BCC with the budget.
So moved.
Okay, and a second?
Second the motion.
Okay, and then we have questions? Do you have some questions, Brian?
I do. I don't have a page number, but it's
Yes,
Department 9010.
Yes, sir.
Fund 011. Under account number 4400, there's an equipment rental for $7,500. I didn't know what that exactly was. I understand the copier lease.
Said 9010.
And then,
Oh, the 7,500 in equipment rentals.
right,
Yes. absolutely. Thanks, Brian.
Morning, Madam Chairman, council members. I'm Brian Kellenberger, Director of Beach Operations. The 9010 account is my account. That is miscellaneous equipment we rent, large pieces of equipment we have to use for different activities on maintenance to
Backhoes,
multi-use
things like that.
path, sometimes on the beach,
Okay.
stuff like that. So,
Okay, and then 9020, professional services. You got federal lobbyist and state lobbyist, combination of 60,000 plus 20, that's $80,000. Is that a normal spend? Is that an increase? I'm sorry, I don't have the previous year's budget in front of me.
And also, I'll be more than happy to meet with each one of you individually, and we can go through and look at last year's, compare side by side, and take our time. But yes, that's the same as last year, as what was budgeted into those areas.
Okay.
Will that process be done kind of at the workshop, or is that something we should get
That's-
together and do on the side?
I would love the opportunity to be able to do on the side and get with each one of you individually, and that way we can sit down and look at both last year's and this year's, and I can really show you a breakdown detail of the difference before the first workshop.
Yeah, individually or as a group would work.
Or as a
For
group.
us, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was hard to kind of see this without
I
seeing
know.
last year's, okay.
Yes, yes,
I
ma'am.
agree, I was wondering
ma'am.
what was this year versus last year.
And
Now
Clay,
we're hearing.
if I could ask Clay, would it be all right to save time to do that as a group, or is that sunshine where you have to do that separately?
Because it will probably be something we would be using to formalize in decision making, we probably need to do that separately.
Okay.
I feel more comfortable about it, especially because it deals with the expenditure of dollars. So much of the budget process does come back before you. I know BCC, there's a little bit more leeway sometimes, but considering our entire role is for fiscal management or fiscal responsibility, there could be a very strong argument that that is actually a core duty of the TDC that we have to carry out.
Okay.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Thank you.
All right, so you'll get with the board and make an appointment? Great.
Yes, ma'am.
So we have a motion, a second. Do we have any more comments on the budget from the audience? Comments, questions? Okay. All right, if there's none, we have a motion, a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? None. Okay, thank you.
All right, you're welcome, ma'am. And I think I've got the next item too, ma'am.
Okay, the broadband.
The broadband services, yes. Jed and I had asked Jed to be here, and he was going to be able to be here, but he had some conflicts last minute that came up, and he couldn't be here. So what I did was I scheduled to meet with Jed on June 14th to get more details from him. Being new, I couldn't really see the variance between the two as far as system goes and budgeting goes. So I've got with him and Melissa, and I'm going to sit down with him on the 14th. He's going to test our system again at the TDC and run through it in detail with me. Some of the information, though, that I received from him was that it was the biggest thing was in the past we paid $965 for both beach operations side and the TDC side, and now we're currently paying $1,550 for both. I know the beach operations, it's working twice as good for them as it was before, and some of the feedback we've received on the TDC side is some of it's intermittent. As far as the video streaming, it seems to be faster. Jed and Rick both said it was 1,000 times faster service than what we had before. But they are going to come out and check and see and make sure that we're getting that service that we're told that we're going to receive as far as the speed goes, and that all the lines are connected correctly and working properly.
So there will be follow-up then, because it seems like the beach is getting better service versus the other. Okay.
Yes, yes, sir. And then I think on June 14th, if you guys have any questions between now and then, I can get them, ask them when I'm there, and then get it back to you guys. No matter what, I'll fill you in on my meeting with Jed on the 14th with more details.
Right, and you could do that when you come around to talk to us about
Yes.
budget. If you have that information, you could add that as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions on broadband? Okay. Thank you. All right, let's move
Thank
on.
you all.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, sir.
Moving on to event sponsorship. Hey, John.
Good morning, John Irvin with Visit South Walton, and what you have in front of you today is the culmination of the program for fiscal 17. We had 26 events submitted for funding in the South, and as you know, we added last year a small funding support for the North as well. The total ask was $769,000 from all the applicants. Applications went through the committee, the events committee, and got reviewed and scored per the protocol and have received staff recommendations, and that's what's in front of you currently. These numbers have been reflected in the budget, and it is a very slight increase. It would have been more significant perhaps because we had 28 or more events last year, so it's a slight decrease in the applications that we received. But what we're asking for is recommendation to proceed with this in the budget and to the BCC. I think also you know that a lot of these events even happen in October, so there is need to do planning and give updates to the events so that they can start working towards next fiscal year. If you have any questions about that, but again, very traditional, what we have continued to do to support the non-peak season, and I think most people believe that it has been very effective in giving reasons for people to be here other than the peak periods in the spring and the summer.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
2016 Back to School Bash, how does that relate to tourism? What is that for?
Now is that the basketball?
I don't know, it says Back to School Bash. I didn't have detail, that was the only thing I read at home. It's $2,600, but I just kind of want to understand.
Yeah, actually, I think that's in the north, right?
Pamela Watkins, Director of Sales. That's at the north end.
Mm-hmm.
They do it at the high school, and it's a talent thing, and they bring people from the South Walton up there to watch it.
Got it. It's a bringing event to that community.
Yes.
Okay.
And there is quite a different application process and different intent with the events in the South. Very much of even Dr. Downs mentioned economic impact for the South. The North definitely has some public relations, community relations support there for sure.
Any other questions from the board?
I've got one other question, but it's really, it has to do with, it's a current promo. It's the Freeport basketball shootout.
Yes, sir.
It's just semantics, but it's spelled out or worded out annual Hilton Sandestin Beach basketball. And that's really not the case. I mean, yes, the majority of them stay there,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not a tournament sponsored by the Hilton Sandestin Beach.
I think that has been the verbatim from their application for a couple of years, but we'll happily trade you some documents back and forth and get whatever it is supposed to be. I think they're obviously very proud that you've been lodging partner for years, and so
We're happy about it too.
Yes, yes. That is one of the hands down one of the most room nights affiliated with anything that happens in the county. So, but we'll check with you on the title to make sure it's correct.
Just for the record.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments from the board? Any comments from the audience? Okay, we need a motion then to approve the sponsorship grants and moving forward with these grants.
So moved.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, the next is the procurement of beach safety deck boards for 40
Good morning,
accesses.
Madam Chairman,
Good morning,
council
Brian.
members. Brian Kellenberger. Appreciate your time this morning. Couple items of business. First one is our Beach Access Boardwalk Safety Message Program. Back in 2014, we started a program where we applied vinyl graphics to our deck boards on our boardwalks. It works out great. We have the same message on our wayfaring signage, but we discovered not everybody reads those signs they walk in. As they're walking down this with the serial vision of each message, it became very popular. Unfortunately, the vinyl graphics don't hold up that well. We replace them about twice a year. And so Josh came up with a solution, which is a routed board with epoxy fill. We expect this to hold up a lot longer. Should get several seasons out of it. It's about $41,000 for 50 boardwalks. Those are the boardwalks that have actual boardwalks. Some of our accesses are just sandy paths down to the edge of the dune. We have money in the budget out of our beach maintenance account and out of the 9030 advertising account. So recommendation is approval of BCC, or request recommendation approval of BCC to move forward with this project.
Any questions, comments? John, did you come up with that all by yourself?
I actually used a vendor to come up with this.
Well,
work together.
It's great.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
This version right here has the routings about a 1/4 inch deep and then the epoxy filled in about halfway. We actually came up with a little bit better solution, not quite so deep routing and epoxy will fill up to the top of them, so it won't collect so much sand.
Right.
But it gives the same, durable surface and great appearance.
It really does. I
And
like
these
that.
go in the floor of the.
Yes, sir. We put them
That would
at.
be the only concern is that,
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a way for someone to cut themselves or.
Like I say,
fill it with
the
sand.
final version will be completely filled with epoxy and be more of
They're
a
great.
level surface.
So how many boards are they, how many of those boards do you have per thing you have?
There's
periodically?
seven messages we put out, and we space them, depending on the length of the boardwalk, we put them at equal intervals, so that as you're walking down, you see one, absorb it, see the next, absorb it, and they work out fabulously. Like I say, a lot of the non-compliant behavior we have on the beach is attributed to ignorance of the ordinance and the safety message. And it's not because people are ignorant, it's just because they haven't had the opportunity to fully be exposed to it. This works fabulously. If you remember the old...
When you say 7, because
Yep.
this one tab or one page I found a little confusing. It says ×4 and then it says ×1. Now, granted it's 7, but I didn't quite understand that when I was reading this and looking at that.
I can answer that question.
Okay. And it's probably my ignorance, but
Josh Irvin. That is actually an invoice for a recent purchase for those decals. So that was 4 sets that we ordered.
4 sets.
Yes.
Okay.
And just to clarify, we're going to reduce the amount of signage down to 6 boards. So instead of having 7, we'll have 6 per boardwalk.
Okay.
Any other comments?
The only other comment I'd have is that, is there any way a private entity like the Hilton, being that they have boardwalks, could
Yes,
buy
sir.
into that or
We can put you in touch with the vendor. This is not copyrighted by any means, so I'll put you in touch with the vendor, and maybe you can piggyback on with us as a bulk order.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's a lot of private communities that have them now that
Yes,
the
ma'am.
stickers are pretty worn off.
They are,
So,
like I say,
yeah.
the stickers were, they were a great idea as far as getting the message out, but
But
not quite as durable as we expected.
You might
to be.
want to offer that to some of the
Mhm.
communities.
Yeah.
It's very nice, very impressed.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a great idea. Okay, any other comments from the audience? Okay. Could we have a motion to approve these deck boards?
I make a motion.
Okay, motion second.
Second.
Second. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Like sign. The next,
Thank you very much. We'll,
thank you, Brian.
carry
And the next is a purchase of 2 utility vehicles.
Yes, ma'am. Request recommendation for approval to the BCC to purchase 2 light utility vehicles to aid in the garbage collection efforts. Over the past month and a half, we've experienced some critically eroded beaches in the east end of the beach, combined with open coastal dune lakes. There's an area between Camp Creek, Deer Lake area, and headed east that we can't get to because it impedes our process with our trucks. As you can see, here's some pictures of some critically eroded beaches. This is the rack line as it sits now at the toe of a private boardwalk. Here's a view looking east and west. As you can see, it's right to the toe of the dune. This is down at our inlet beach area. This is low tide. At high tide and a southeast wind, waves crash up there to the edge. Here's another view of Inlet Beach. As you can see, it's all the way up to the toe of the dune. And here's the result of what happens when you try to traverse that. That's one of our new F-250s, about $40,000 that almost became destroyed. That effort right there, as you can see, we tried to drive past it, got stuck, backed up. As you are on an incline, your truck will move to the bottom of the incline and boom, off the rack line. So we tried to come up with some solutions. One of them was using our Beach Ambassador Gator light utility vehicle and a borrowed Gator from the landfill department. And it helped out a lot. They're lighter, they can traverse the coastal Dune Lake outfall. What happens is when those outfalls first bust open, about 2 days are pretty deep, and then they become shallow, but the sand is like quicksand. And those F-250s, about 4,500 pounds, they bog right down. The Gators can traverse right across it, and also in the other areas where we have areas where we can get around it, like we can drive down this rack line right now with a small vehicle, but not with a truck. Same thing here at low tide, there we can get around it. The other solutions we were using is traversing the public boardwalks and gathering garbage by hand. We have 600 garbage stations In this area alone, we have over 100. That's from Camp Creek down to Winston Lane. We have 3 boardwalks in that area. They're all located right at the Seacrest Beach area. So there's another good mile of beach that we simply, it's very difficult to get to. I don't know if you pay attention to social media. There was a lot of information on there that, not quite the truth, but it did display that we were having difficulties getting that garbage off the beach. So our request is to purchase 2 light utility vehicles. They're about $14,000 a piece. They're Gator XUV 855s, your typical Gator, open cab, got a bed on the back. We'll add some racks. And we have some small lightweight trailers we pull behind them, and we'll use those to get the garbage off the beach in that area and wherever else we have it. We anticipate that the Seagrove Beach area will also have critical erosion that will make it hard to get in that area. So these 2 new vehicles will be a definite asset to our fleet, and we'd appreciate consideration and approval of the BCC to purchase.
Okay, any questions from the board? Comments? How about the audience? Any questions, comments? Do we have a motion to approve these vehicles?
I so move.
So moved. Second?
A second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? 1 nay.
Thank you very much. That carries into beach maintenance new employees. FY16, we're approved to include 4 part-time seasonal positions. Those are positions we hire from March to end of September. And this year we've had extreme difficulty filling those part-time positions. We've attempted twice, advertised. First go round we had 4 applicants or candidates. We interviewed them. We didn't get any, or no, we got 1 part-time employee out of that go around. The second go around we advertised we had a full-time position to fill from a vacancy that happened. So we advertised for full-time and part-time, and from that we got 10 candidates, and out of that we got 1 full-time candidate. The reason is in our area, part-time seasonal work is readily available, and it pays very well. People that want to come work for the county are interested in a full-time position. We start them off about $12 an hour. They have full benefits. And so we're asking for recommendation for approval to the BCC to convert the 3 unfilled part-time positions to 3 full-time positions. We have the work for them. Part of the argument is what you do with them in the winter. We have work that we do in the winter. We convert from a garbage collection company to a maintenance company. As you know, our facilities are not old, but they are aging, and we have a lot of work to do on the bike path that is in addition to our regular maintenance. So our request is to convert these part-time positions to full-time positions. We have money in our budget to cover now for this year, and we've included money in the budget next year to cover them as well.
Right.
What is it per position full-time?
Pardon me?
What is the cost per position full-time?
$12 an hour is about $24,000 a year plus benefits. I believe our benefits average about 18%, Jason? So PRT and I is about 18%. So.
Any other comments?
So about $90,000, $96,000, something like that?
Yes, sir.
Could it, I mean, the year starts what, October?
Pardon me?
When's the year start again? I'm sorry.
Fiscal year starts October 1st.
October, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How fast would you employ these 3 positions? Is it going to happen?
We'll immediately advertise. It'll be a 2-week advertisement, and typically we can fill them within a week. The type of people that apply for these positions aren't necessarily married to the job they're in now, and so the 2-week notice of leaving is usually not there. A lot of them are looking for employment and can start immediately. Training process is very short. The work we do is manual labor, cleaning restrooms, picking up garbage. So we put them with our seasoned guys. They ride with them for a couple of weeks. And of course, these positions would already be a supplement to the trucks that we have on the beach anyway.
Can you use contract labor to substitute full-time just to get through the season? I understand the importance of getting through the season. It's just that
we could use contract labor.
Having them through the wintertime right now until at least you budgeted for.
Well, like I say, our new budget starts in October. Right now, we have a good surplus in our budget for our account as well as all of the TDC. So there's not really a budget problem with them. We like to have, our unit, we work 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have 9 guys per crew. It's a very cohesive crew. We like, full-time employees get in, become a member of the team. When they have to be asked to do something extra, they wave their hand up as volunteer. So it's a benefit for us to have full-time employees versus contract labor or part-time labor. I understand your point. We could, fulfill a immediate need, but once again, the problem that we have suffered with part-time labor, and we've never really used contract labor, but they don't have the dedication as a full-time employee. And if our guys don't show up, we don't get garbage off the beach and we don't clean our restrooms, and people get mad.
And BCC gets calls.
Commissioner
Sutton.
Me and Commissioner Jones start getting a bunch of emails.
There's no doubt with all the challenges we're having with the growth that we really need it, and I certainly support you in your recommendations.
Okay.
So, any other comments?
Are these people needed to drive those 2 new vehicles?
They will be. Like I say, it'll be a supplement to getting garbage off the beach. Memorial Day weekend, our guys were getting in right at about closing time. Still had to spend an hour to clean vehicles and all that. So we're maxed out on our employees we have now as what we can do on really tough weekends. We noticed, you'll see a little bit later, our garbage collection for the month of May went down slightly, and I attribute that downward trend to our inability to get garbage off the beach during the first part of May. The month before that, we were up about 10%. May, our numbers show us we're down about 11%. However, if we could have gotten onto the beach every day like we needed to down on that east end, I believe our numbers would have trended up just a little bit. So the other thing I noticed is that for the month of April, like I say, we're up 10%. We started getting more garbage off the beach sooner than we did last year. On the weekend of Memorial Day, we averaged about 3,000 bags. We don't usually do, like in the middle of July, we'll average about 2,800 bags a week. Now, granted, Memorial Day weekend was a long weekend, long week. Not sure how the schools played out in that, if schools were already out or not, but we're getting more people here, as you've seen by the marketing numbers.
Are they hourly or salary?
These will be hourly people. They're wage earners.
So in theory, during the wintertime when it's slower, you don't incur as much cost when during the summer you would.
My guess is you interviewed people as well, and they wanted full-time, not seasonal help?
Correct. Like I say,
You have people from that apply that could do it?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Out of the last go-around, we offered the 3 part-time positions, and they just simply said, listen, we're not interested in part-time. If you got a full-time, we will hire on. And, we have employees that have worked for us for, one guy's 18 years, a couple of them 15 years, some 10 or 11. When they get on with us, they like working for the county, they like working for our department. It's a hard job, but it's, I don't want to say it's fun, but it's different every day. So that's another benefit of full-time employees. And like I say, if we got an issue, there's not a day that we've had something go on, like, for instance, turtle rescue. South Walton Turtle Watch calls in at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Me or Josh can walk out there, hey guys, we need 3 guys to volunteer. And nothing's ever said. They just go get in a truck and go get it. On the big weekends, we bring both crews in. There's never any complaining about it. They just come in, do their work. Christmas Day, we're out there, on Christmas Day. We're out there on Easter. We're out there on July 5th with 20 guys picking up stuff, and there's never any complaints about it. They just go out there and do it.
How many current employees are on the staff?
We have 18 what we call beach maintenance workers. 2 of those are crew leaders, and then there's 8 guys per crew. 2 of those people are our landscaping crew, and then we have our administrative staff and management staff.
And Brian, when I've been down there, they're great ambassadors because they're always friendly and they're doing their job, but they're speaking and acting like they're enjoying what they're doing.
Yeah.
So that says a lot to tourists or people going down as well. So
yes,
thank you for that.
Yeah.
That as well. Any other comments? How about comments from the audience? With that in mind, do we have a motion to approve the full-time as opposed to the part-time positions?
So it's not in the budget, but you can commit that you'll stay within the budget expenses.
Yes, sir. Review of the budget reveals that we have spent a little less than half of our budget, and we're 2/3 the way through the year. I don't have the exact numbers, but that was the review of it. And then next year, I have these people budgeted as full-time employees.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
I'll
motion.
second it.
Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Like sign. And I got in a hurry, and we need to move back one to recommendation to the BCC to hold a public workshop to discuss alternate forms of beach management in case of a storm.
Yes, ma'am. Let's click forward. We can get right to that. Okay. Request TDC workshop. As Matt Trammell, our coastal engineering consultant, explained, that with the tabling of the HSDR project, we do need to have a Plan B or Plan C, as we call it, and that would be a management plan in case of a storm or other disaster. So what we'd like to do is hold a public workshop to explain the different options, what could be contained in that plan, and then bring that to back to the TDC for approval, and then on to the BCC for approval.
Weren't those, that's the same 2 dates that Matt did, that he had asked? Right?
Yes, sir. That's what Matt was talking about.
That's what I was
And so,
I thought we'd
yeah.
done
So
that.
Matt's our
Sorry.
consultant. He gives an update.
Right.
Me as the beach operations director and liaison for that beach management committee. This went through the beach management committee. That's our committee that's set up to handle all things, beach management wise. Formerly, it was consumed with the HSDR project, and now we're not doing that, or is that
Right.
project tabled? So we're now looking at different things of how to make our beach better in a management position wise. So this is like I say, HSDR was a fix for what we have, critically eroded beaches, and to safeguard the upland property. So now that that's tabled, we need to have some sort of plan in the event of a storm. And some of that is, do we go ahead, like, we take aerial video of the beach every year for historical data, survey it every 2 years before, but we haven't done it. Matt, when's the last time it was surveyed?
4 years ago.
4 years ago. So part of these components of this beach management plan would be to have historical data in place, and then there's also a discussion that needs to be had. Do we go ahead and get the permits for beach restoration? Because
I agree with you. I just, again, my confusion was I thought the request to approve was already done when Matt
No,
had come up. It was the
we
same
didn't have-
time, but
we couldn't do any business because we didn't have a
We didn't have
quorum.
a quorum here,
So
so
this is
we-
a cleanup.
yeah, sorry
This is
for-
a cleanup of Matt's update and
Okay.
formal request for recommendation.
Okay, got it. Sorry.
No,
Not to skip back, but in the event of a storm, is your team on full alert? They go and
We have a disaster plan that we implement at certain time periods before the storm hits. We practice it once a year. We have a bunch of commodities in place to do immediate repairs. We have all of our people lined up. When I say we, I mean beach ops. John and his team have all the marketing communications efforts. They'll go up with the EOC people and get the proper messages in place. So yeah, we have a complete disaster plan for our immediate operations. However, right now we don't have a preparation response plan for what to do with the beaches.
I think it's important you guys do that because it's just a matter of when.
yeah,
The season's already starting off with a bang.
I think just this past week we had a little bit of a scare when people said, "Hey, where's this thing going to go?" Even though it's a tropical storm, it gets out in the warm waters of the Gulf. You know what happens? They pick up speed between Miami and here.
And we had issues before that on the beach. I mean, there's erosion.
We get a southwest wind and a high tide. You see what happens?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's incredible what happens.
Yeah, it looks
I
like
mean,
that,
that right there. I mean, you know where this is down in the Inlet Beach area. Those beaches were 50 and 75 feet deep. From the toe of the dune out to where the rack line was, and the rack line is now at the toe of the dune.
Yeah, I'm curious to know how you took a picture of the beach without the signs and the chains and the fences. So,
My guess is most of them got washed away.
yeah.
I didn't Photoshop it.
I'm just teasing.
Yeah, especially if we don't have a survey from it's been 4 years?
Yeah, we need.
Yeah, the full beach, we've been monitoring the east beaches for quite some time, and we have good data there. But as far as the west beaches, but the east beaches from Sandestin to the east, the last time DEP surveyed that, I believe, was 2010 or 2011, so over 4 years.
Yeah, it's time.
Yeah, and what Brian had mentioned, we do have a plan for all of our county beach accesses. This is just another tool in the toolbox to give the residents that opportunity. Should they opt for the beach restoration, should Walton County move forward, we're going to be prepared primarily with having those permits in place. So,
Great. Thank you.
thank you.
Any comments from the audience? Do I have a motion to move forward with the public, to the BCC to hold a public workshop?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Like sign.
All right, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Carrying on, we have a couple of requests for some emergency repairs at 2 of our neighborhood beach accesses. First one is Nightcap, should be neighborhood beach access. This is in the Seagrove area. This is directly east of Highway 395 intersection. These our accesses here are 5 feet wide. They're the ones that Q McGee put in, and this one in particular is a sandy path down to the board or the dune walkover. New construction to the east of it is forcing water that formerly would run onto that lot, comes off of 30A, would run onto that lot on the east. Now it does not. It runs down our access. And the result is it's washing out the sandy portion of the access. This is a view looking north. You can see water running down right there. The house to the west has a privacy fence, and they've been doing some sandbag work. But what's happening is we're blowing out the dune. And eventually the structure of the boardwalk will be compromised. So what we're requesting is approval to engage, or requesting recommendation to the BCC for approval to engage a design professional to give us some solutions. We've already talked with our engineering department for Walton County. They're real wrapped up right now, so they don't have time to get to it. But what the solution would be is a exfiltration system, a couple of type C inlets, one at the beginning, one close to the start of the dune walkover, and then we'll pave the surface with concrete pavers, and that will eliminate most of the sand getting into our exfiltration system. Exfiltration system is a large pipe, perforated pipe, gravel and a sock around it. Water falls into it and then filters into the ground. And so with a type C collection at the head of it and at the bottom of it, we should be able to catch most of the water. Like I said, the majority of the water is coming off 30A. We're getting a little bit off this guy's property to the east. Review of his plans. He has a water collection system incorporated with his house. As you know, in the state of Florida, you can't allow your water to run off your property onto other people's property. The house to the west is a very old beach cottage. We are now pushing water from our property onto their property. And so something needs to be done pretty quick. We think we have a solution. One of our engineering firms out of the revolving continuing services pool, preliminary discussions with them, they can get it started on pretty quick. Should be a fairly easy fix. And we have money in our capital improvement budget that will cover this. So the request is recommendation for approval to the BCC to engage a design professional to design the system.
Does that exfiltration system still allow water to dump onto the beach? Or
No,
is
sir.
it relied, it's all captured and supposed to penetrate
Yes, sir.
and be absorbed into the ground?
Yep. As you know, in the Seagrove area, we enjoy a really high bluff. Our groundwater is, a little bit above sea level, so you have about 12 feet of nice, good beach sand. And to be honest with you, a lot of it does perk as it goes down. But in these last couple of rains we've had, we've been doing temporary repairs for about 6 months on these conditions. We had a rain about 3 weeks ago, Josh. We came in, rebuilt the whole thing, and then the rain we had over this past weekend did this. As you can see underneath the structure, it's pushed a lot of sand out, and once again, it's almost a dune restoration project. So we don't want to get to that point. If we can.
And did you say there are others like this?
Yes, sir. We have another one, Wall Street. Not quite as bad. Wall Street doesn't have quite the same high bluff, but it is. This is the start of the dune walkover right there. This is just off the pavement. If you're familiar with Wall Street, that's in the Inlet Beach neighborhood. You have the paved street that comes down. You kind of see our truck headlights. It's right at the end of the pavement. But this is another area that we've been doing temporary repairs to. So our solution here would be a catch basin. This area right here, concrete pad, type C inlet, and we would run the exfiltration system up the road, underneath the road. This one's going to be a little bit more expensive. We have looked at running it up the east side of the road. That's probably doable, but we're having some issues on the east side of the road as well for water that runs off that. What you get is all that water coming down Wall Street, and it has to go somewhere. And now, these are, kind of exaggerated by the large rains we had, but we can expect large rains throughout the summer. And the temporary repairs are just that. We got to do something permanent. We did this system at Dothan Street. If you're familiar with Dothan Street, we had a dune blowout where that boardwalk was, and so the rebuilding of that boardwalk included a dune restoration and a storm water collection system. And we put a 100-foot pipe underneath the boardwalk, and it works marvelously. It collects all that water that collected in at Dothan that was channeled down our boardwalk, and it collects it, puts it underground. No more dune blowout, no more water collecting at the intersection of Dothan and Montgomery. So these systems work great in our beach sand. We do have a little bit of maintenance. About every 4 or 5 years, we got to get in there and suck the sand out of them. But we put in manholes for it at each end. It takes a vacuum truck, a couple of hours. They get in there and suck them out, and they start working good again.
Is there a means or a process that when something like this, and there's a public safety issue, that you can repair it without going through this whole process of getting approvals and all that, if it's deemed some way, somehow, an emergency, public safety?
Yes, sir. We have in our purchasing policy for the county, there are provisions for emergency repairs. This came up close enough that we felt it was appropriate. I mean, since you have the fiduciary responsibility of spending the TDC's money, we felt that bring it to you so that you'd be aware of it and you could talk about it and move it on to the BCC if you felt necessary.
Have you closed some of these locations?
We have
looks
closed.
Like that.
Well, we closed them temporarily until we can fix them temporarily.
Yeah, it looks like that one was
Yeah.
danger. Don't walk over it.
Yeah, they are.
Looks dangerous.
Josh, where have we patched them yet? Have we patched Nightcap in Wall Street?
Yes, Wall Street is back open. We're working on Nightcap.
It was closed.
Okay. So once again, it'll be a temporary repair, and something needs to be done permanently.
Yeah, no, I agree.
2 reasons at Nightcap is it's just a continuing problem, and the other problem is we're forcing water onto the neighbor's property that's rightfully our water, and since it's an older house, it's a slab on grade, and if it's compromising his foundation, you can bet that he'll expect the county to take care of his foundation problems.
Yeah.
So
It almost seems like your question applies to a storm event as well. Do they have the ability after a storm event to go and do temporary repairs until larger repairs can be done for safety issues?
Yeah.
Only other question is doesn't the planning department, is some of this foreseen in the planning process with the construction of new homes, or is this just done strip by strip, piece by piece?
can't speak exactly for the planning department, but when they review plans, they look at the stormwater plans for that piece of property.
Sure.
Especially if it's residential. Commercial properties, they have different studies they have to, the developer has to account for to include in his submittal. But most of the times it's you have to contain your water on your property, and then they assume at that point that you're not going to affect your adjacent properties.
And are these just old beach accesses that haven't addressed that situation?
Yes, sir.
Is that what's going on?
The biggest problem is along 30A. We're working on some stormwater solutions on 30A in this area on the north side of the road. South side of the road, Public Works has started the process with their redesigning of 395 and 30A. And they'll go each way on the south side of the road with some stormwater solutions. So like right now, a lot of this water is water that's coming down 395, hits 30A, heads to the west, ends up on the south side of the road, and then finds the first convenient place. All the water is trying to get, down to the beach in one way or another, through the ground or above ground. Like I say, Charlie Cotton with the engineering department, their hands are full right now. They have a new drainage crew. Charlie stacked up a lot of projects before this drainage crew was put in place, so they're busy. He helps us out in consulting. They actually are the engineer of record and the people performing the work for the stormwater drainage system on the north side of the road in this area. And so like I say, we appreciate all the help they've given us, but our preliminary discussions with him is he goes, guys, we're wrapped up. Y'all need to do it now. You need to go outside the county to get designing and construction.
And Brian, in the continuing services, do y'all rotate as far as using the engineers, or do y'all have the, prerogative?
We rotate. Request through Glendale in purchasing, and the next person in line gets the opportunity to provide a cost for the project, and then we go from there.
Yeah, and we are doing, the BCC is doing lots of stormwater projects on 30A, and honestly, we've had more rain than I ever remember us having in a long time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of going backward to try to fix some of,
Yes, ma'am. There's a lot of work
too, so.
that needs to be done on 30A.
Right. But, it's all getting better. We're improving day by day. If we could get a control of the traffic on 30A, we will be moving much forward. Any more questions on this issue?
Only is it prudent to go outside, or is it better to wait, temporary repair and wait? I don't know the answer
think
to
we
that.
need.
You're gonna spend more money, I think. You're
Right.
just gonna keep
Yeah.
dumping more money on it. So.
All right. So, okay, we'll take them individually. Do I have a motion for nightcap as far as moving forward?
I'll make that motion.
Motion, second.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Now, do we have a motion on Wall Street, moving forward with the Wall Street project?
I make a motion.
Okay, motion, second?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Like sign.
Thank you very much. All right. That's it for me.
Okay, thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Okay, Mr. J, I believe director's update is next. Is that right? Or you want to go to sales first and then director?
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna go last, so that's just
Okay.
the directors. So we'll do sales, marketing, reach out, and then make it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Pam.
Good morning to you all. For the record, Pamela Watkins, Director of Sales and Visitor Center. This is a slide. This is the Atlanta Meeting Planner Takeover. We went to Atlanta in April, and Atlanta is our #1 market to meet with meeting planners. They love South Walton for their meeting destination. Visit Florida allows 10 partners throughout the state. That can be a destination or that can be a hotel. So this allowed us an opportunity to meet with 50 to 60 meeting planners in a small, intimate setting. It was very successful. This is the Dallas Fort Worth Expo. We just returned from that yesterday. It happened Saturday and Sunday, and there were thousands and thousands of women. 95% of the attendees were women. And the expo focuses on vacation, travel, fashion, health and wellness, nutrition, and fitness. They have keynote speakers such as Paula Abdul, Helen Hunt, Christy Alley, Winona Judd, and more. These 5 ladies were so much fun. They came to the booth about 3 different times, and they wanted their picture taken because they had rented a place at Seaside, and they'll be here in a couple weeks. So they wanted to get their picture taken and put it all over Facebook so everybody knew that they were coming here. And when you're at these shows, you never know who you're going to run into. And there was another vendor who their family promotes high-end facial products. And she came to the booth and she said, I've heard of South Walton Fashion Week, and we would like to be a sponsor. And, how does that happen? Who do we contact? So, I flipped out my phone and gave her Stacy Brady's number. So hopefully the 2 of them will connect, and they will be a sponsor this fall for the Fashion Week. Upcoming sales missions is the IBTM America That focuses on incentive travel, and this destination is a fabulous destination for companies who want to provide incentive trips for their employees. Connect Marketplace is in August in Texas. We are going to that as well as a few of our other meeting properties. South Walton will be sponsoring a first day's breakfast. That is a presentation to 3,000 people at breakfast, so that will be a good way to hit the floor running and getting our people's faces out there. Off-site meeting venues. 30A has some great new meeting venues. We get a lot of calls from meeting planners who have already scheduled a group, say at the Hilton or Sandestin or Embassy, and they're there for 3 or 4 or 5 days, and they want to do an evening off-site venue. So we've got 30A venue at Inlet Beach. It's at the 30 Avenue Shops. It's 10,000 square feet of raw event space, and then you decorate it any way that you want. It's great for. It's also great for weddings. We have the Hub at Seacrest. It has 7 different outdoor and indoor event spaces. There's lots of things there to do. There's indoor space as well. You could do a little corporate retreat there. And then Trebiche has a little over 3,400 square feet of indoor meeting space. One room alone is 2,300, so that is another option. Great food, and we were there actually a couple weeks ago. They unveiled their meeting space to planners and to wedding planners. This is Embassy Suites. They have undergone a $6.5 million renovation the past 3 years, and they just finished this right before spring break, so they're completely done with their guest rooms, their lobby, their meeting space. And as you can see, they've taken out all their, most of their foliage and their greenery and just opened it up. And when you walk in, it kind of feels like you're at Miami Beach. So if you get an opportunity, stop in there and take a look at that. They are so proud of that. They have 125 guest rooms. The visitor center and the sales team, we did a couple team building events this past month. This one was at 30A Airboat Adventures, and they put in at the north end of 393. They can take up to 6 people on their boat, and we went way up in the backwaters. We saw dolphins and eagles and osprey and alligators and plants I've never seen before. And the only way really to get up in there is to do something like this. So we are glad to have this. We're glad to have the opportunity to experience it. It'll be great for our leisure visitors, but it'll also be great for our meeting folks. They could use something like that too.
Where was their launch site?
At the north end of 393. And this was a team building with, again, the sales team and the visitor center team at V La La Gallery, which is at 30 Avenue. And they have, it's called the Creative Lounge. It's space that they can turn into just about anything that you want. I mean, it is an art gallery, but they do a lot of cocktail parties. And then in the back, you can take art classes. They can take up to 13 people. So again, it's a good team building exercise. This big piece that you see here, we had no idea what we were going to create. And she took us step by step, and then we each individually made a individual piece. So if you've got people that are looking for something to do, maybe on a rainy day, they can go there and take classes. It's a lot of fun. Visitor center stats. As you can see, April and May, we were down on visitors. And again, I've said before, there's no rhyme or reason the number of people that stop in or don't stop in. So January through May, we were down 13%. But if you look at the merchandise sales, we are rocking it. I mean, May was the biggest month yet. So from January through May, we've sold almost $10,000 worth of merchandise. Deliveries, the beachgoer guides. Every bed tax collector that has a brick and mortar building, we delivered beachgoer guides right before Memorial Weekend, a little over 11,000. And again, our hope is that they put those in the packet so that the visitor knows all the rules of the beach, especially the leave no trace. Also, the number 1,666 visitor guides to the airports and the visitor center welcome centers. And then there is a trip advisor. I can't read that little print up there, but it says, "This is a fabulous place for information about the area, calendar of events, and wonderful beachy souvenirs. Norma Jean is so welcoming and helpful. We stop here every visit." So just goes to prove it's important to have a visitor center. Just want to note that we sponsored the Walton Chamber Luncheon on May 4th. There was about 210 people in attendance. That's the biggest month they've had in a long time. We also had a meet and greet at the TDC for Jay. We had a strong showing for that. People in the community came out, people that we see in social media but don't necessarily stop by, and so we were able to interact with them and give them information. Visit Florida held their yearly board reception at the Sandestin Resort, and the TDC sponsored that reception. That gave us an opportunity to interact with professionals from all over the state in tourism. And that is it. Any questions? Yes.
Go ahead, please. How much inventory do you carry as far as merchandise?
Well, it depends on what that product is. T-shirts, we try to order 300 to 400 at a time.
I'm just talking about dollars. How many dollars of inventory you got?
I don't know. Jason, do you have any idea? Okay, we can give you that answer, but I off the top of my head, I don't have that.
You have an awesome merchandise program. I know why the sales are going up. My comment is that there really needs to be some sort of, you've heard me speak over and over about the ability to make a U-turn there, but I know, I can tell you easily that you don't have the traffic, or the traffic is falling because it's inconvenient.
It is.
And there really should be, if not a U-turn there, at least a directional sign that says to the, make a left here and then do a U-turn, and follow the signs, or something to get people there, because it's super inefficient, and it's almost, I don't want to say it's a waste, because it's not a waste, but it's not being utilized to the fullest potential, because it's a beautiful building. You have great merchandise and wonderful people, and all the people that drive by it that can't get to it or don't want to turn around or all those things, you would get a tremendous amount of more traffic.
And we sell our merchandise at cost, so we don't, jack up the price a lot. So that's one reason, I think, why they buy our merchandise. But also, from a historical standpoint, we've been keeping records on counts from 1994 on. When that 4-lane went in on 98 and on 331, before that, we were averaging 25,000 visitors a year. Immediately, when that went in, we dropped to 20,000, and we've kind of stabilized since that.
Yeah, because you used to be able to make an illegal left turn into the parking lot.
Yes.
Right. And I know we've had discussions about possibly a road through the sheriff's.
Yes.
So maybe we could revisit that at some point, Jay.
Yeah, I think DOT said no, but there's no reason why we can't ask again.
Try. Okay. And we can look at that from our point of view too. So thank you. Thank you,
Anything
Pam,
else?
for the job you do. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, marketing. John?
Thanks much. I have a few updates for you beyond all the work that's been done with Zender and Miles and Downs and St. Germain and Spring O'Brien. Your team has been busy, and if you can help me welcome Zach, if you'd stand up just real quick. Zach Pettis has just joined a couple of weeks ago, communications coordinator. We appreciate him being here. Much needed role, and if you have a chance to say hello, please do so. That the experience that we've had a lot of turnover, but we're at full chairs occupied currently, so that is something that will get them up to experience, get them a little bit higher capacity, and we'll continue to do our best. We have currently our July marketing committee meeting interferes with Independence holiday, so we are considering the July 28th for those every other month meetings. We have closed the submission time for the PR firm, currently Turner Public Relations is the top evaluated firm, and we have got to go through the process. We'll be in front of the BCC to ask for permission for county to negotiate with them. So it's still in process, so there's not a huge amount of updates until we can execute that, but that would be for fiscal 17 public relations services. In the last 2 months regarding editorial coverage in the U.S., March and April's numbers were in, and it was $1.64 million. If you had to purchase that space, that's how much it would cost, and those are through editorial attention. So that continues. You hear about added value with the agency a lot. This is another significant tracking that we keep very close eye on. Every organization like us right now is struggling to turn their content into contextual information. Content overload is becoming a disease, and to get your story told and to get your story read is no small thing in this day and age with the competition that's out there. So the agency and the teams are working very hard on changing a little bit of our attitude and a little bit of our voice so that we don't become lost in the sea of content. Our Beach Safety Text program has gone through a couple of bumps in the road. I think most of you know that we've had that for many years. You can opt in while you're here, or you can opt in for extended periods of time and get the flag updates as often as twice a day. The JA Interactive vendor that has provided that service, we lost our number, which may not sound like a big deal, but when you consider it's printed on wayfaring signs, on deck graphics, in visitor guides, in all sorts of annual publications, that is pretty disruptive. We're facing that again with JA Interactive, and so we have taken steps to find a vendor that we believe will be more stable and actually more affordable. So that's the bad news. Good news is we believe we have a wonderful solution. The bad news is no matter what, the numbers that we have on all beach safety text program stuff now has to be replaced. So it will be, we'd like to say it's a 90-day effort. It's probably 6 months of chasing down loose ends to update those very important informational pieces that are out there in the world. So the team will undertake that, and we'll do the best we can with that. RFP for advertising services is still open, so we're in a blackout period. We don't talk too much about that until submissions, which next week become the deadline occurs. And again, this is for fiscal 17. We are required on both of these that I've talked about today, these RFPs, because we've expended our allowable renewals. So we have to go through this process. But you know, in a 3 or 4 year period, you're talking about $26 million worth of activity. So there's some significance. Ms. Frost has volunteered to help be on the panel with the county to review those, and so we will hopefully have future updates as we go looking for fiscal 17, but it will take about 6 months to accomplish that. We have been in the Houston activation. You saw some visuals of that. We are looking at Nashville, Dallas, and New Orleans are coming in the fall. Those are long lead times and lots of work that has to be done, but as you saw from the research, we know where the households that have high spending, have high potential, and are interested in being here in seasons when we need people, which is not the summer. So all of that intellect hopefully goes into continuing to drive these good seasons. We just came, since we were in front of you last, had 7 different special events that were funded, wine festivals, art, and so we're glad that those continue to show. And again, there'll be reports put up on the website today that talk about the economic impact of those, or within 24 hours, I should say. And we have closed the fiscal 17 co-op program. There was over 200 options for people to join forces, and we sold 93%. We couldn't find a number that's ever been that high, so we're very pleased that the participation is so good. We're spending about $1.1 million next year in the vicinity to make those programs happen, and they're very affordable buy-ins by partners that are able to do that, $500, sometimes $1,500. So that relentlessly, again, is targeting the value of this brand and the non-peak seasons is where we're really trying to make a difference. I was lucky to be able to do a follow-up visit just recently with a couple of companies you may have heard of. Visit Florida traveled to their world headquarters, and we had direct conversations with these entities. It would take about a week to recount the week because there's so much information. Visit Florida is almost starting over with their platforms, going full service with Adobe, and going to become much, much more aggressive in the digital realm, which of course everybody is or needs to. For them, that's transformative, though. I mean, when they're going to spend 4, 5, 6, 7 million just to rebuild their website so that they can serve contextual content, it's quite stunning. Even for these companies, the world's moving so fast, they're scrambling, and they're the ones that are causing the change. So disruptive growth is a thing that if you haven't heard of, that you're going to continue to hear about. The old models of bell curves, how things grow, don't exist anymore. They just explode. Uber is a perfect example of that. They project within 2 to 3 years they'll have Uberless driver cars, Uber driverless. And the rumor is they've already ordered 100,000 vehicles from Mercedes, and there's no delay in anything these companies do. They make a decision, and then they just go 100%, 100 miles an hour. What does that mean for us? Well, right now, the conversations that we've had, all the really good analytics and all the really good technologies behind the curtain, and we're maybe not big enough to be behind the curtain. Right now, they're dealing with Carnival Cruises and Nike and Under Armour and Mercedes and Visit Florida. So that is something that's extremely key, is that our partnerships with Visit Florida may get us behind the curtain where the really smart stuff is going on. But just to show you real quick, we're going to flip over to a video. Facebook launched Canvas not that long ago with Carnival, and this was a brand new product, which I think the stat was 50% of people who saw any of this watched the entire thing, which is in our world unheard of. And their original program reached 7.7 million people. So the whole thing's navigable. Your entire screen becomes delivery. You have the ability to move through it. And you're like, and then there's video is capable of just autoplay seamless stuff. But their base program on this is in the vicinity of $400,000 or $500,000 to start. So again, big right now. It will become attainable. In fact, there are some cases that maybe it's attainable to us in the future for non-peak. But even as a co-op partner with Visit Florida, you can imagine being a 1/10 partner in something to this extent. But as you can see, Carnival's not just trying to divide or deliver content. They're trying to deliver a story. They're trying to have contextual call to action. So super fast moving, almost impossible to keep up, but we are doing our best to stay near the front of that race. And we thought maybe showing you a little piece of this. There's probably 20 things that happen on par with this when we were at Google's offices and in Adobe's offices and in talking about Instagram, and that they're all launching desirable things like this, but they're enormous. So yes, again, in the consumption of this, 7.7 million people reached, and in this day and age, to be noticed in this world is very, very difficult thing to do. So we may have some more updates for you in the future. Our digital is a very successful program, but this is the next generation stuff.
And I can't get past the driverless cars, so.
It's they actually have driverless. Uber does have a driverless car on the East Coast right now, just in beta. And of course, Tesla's got driverless, and I hate to scare everybody, but your plane's driverless too. Every time you get on it, a computer's flying that. So it's coming.
Yeah, and we have a move here, which will be great for our county. It could actually put us on the map as being the first testing station, and so there's good things coming.
Fingers crossed, and I think they're beyond relief of physical issues. That as an endorsement and a reputation builder, even for a community like this, would be incredible and speak for itself if we're going to proceed to something like that. So very exciting times, a little overwhelming at some points.
Do you think it's going to bring more people here?
We don't need more people in the summer, but I would hope that it makes it easier for people. And if you had a crystal ball, 5 years from now, people would be probably deciding where to travel based on communities that have figured it out. And if we're not one of them, we could be in a different situation.
I see the North End moving, Freeport area growing, and hopefully some of them will, say they want to stay there, and then some visit down here. So it's a good thing for our county. It really is. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Beach operations update, Brian.
Good morning again. Beach operations update. It's Coastal Dune Lake signs. We're in our phase 3, which is the last 6 signs or last 6 lakes on the multi-use path. Linda Gates with the Environmental Department is doing our theme and content, and then it will go to the Marketing Department for brand standard review. The 6 lakes are Camp Creek, Draper Lake, Little Redfish, Big Redfish, Oyster Lake, and Allen Lake, and then those are the themes. So Linda did a fabulous job on our last 2 phases, and we expect the same out of that one. She just got back off of a maternity leave, so she has a few things to take care of with her regular job, and she'll be back on this. We expect to have something in front of the Destination Improvement Committee next month, and we'll continue on with the process. Public space design shred. We had our initial survey, some public workshops. The consultant put together the first draft, had a staff review of that. We sent it back with some revisions. Destination Improvement Committee has looked at it and sent back some of their comments. Consultant has it back in their office again for a second draft, and then it'll come to the TDC board members for review and comment. Expect that in sometime mid-June. Multi-use path projects, Grayton Beach to Western Lake. We have completed all the permitting. The funding has been appropriated. The construction RFP is out for bid right now. Expect it to be completed sometime in mid-June. Then they'll let the contract to the successful bidder. Construction will start immediately. So most of the work is being done off the road. There'll be some closures of the road when they're flying in the large bridge sections. As you remember, there's 2 large spans that cross the sections of the lake. The rest of it's all done on the right-of-way. Phase 2, which is from the west side of Western Lake to Highway 283, we're still working on some easement work with the state park system. That easement is for some grading and drainage work. The path won't be in the state park. As you know, the state park runs right along the northern right-of-way. But what it did is that allowed us to not have to relocate some utility poles. Saved a bunch of money. Expect to have that permitting easement work done during the summer, and we'll start construction in September. Highway 98 to 30A West connector, that's the missing link down there. That portion of the highway is undergoing reclassification from rural to urban, which will make it easier to build the bike path, and more than likely FDOT will include it in their costs of widening that road. Multi-use path projects continued. Seagrove Beach, Highway 395 stormwater. This is the drainage project I was talking about earlier. West of Highway 395, going along the 4 north-south roads there. We put in collection basins and then conveyance to exfiltration systems under Dogwood and Thyme. I don't know if you were in that area or not over the last month, but you probably saw the gaping hole. And so anyway, they're done with the work mostly. There's still a little bit of cosmetic work to be done and some landscaping work in the small median between the road and the bike path. We poured the bike path bath and all in concrete. It's 8 feet wide. Really nice project done in conjunction with Public Works and the engineering department. East of 395 is being incorporated into the new intersection redesign and construction, and that's all being done by Public Works Engineering and their drainage crew. That'll be more than likely in spring of 2017. I'm sure there'll be some more looking at that and possibly rescheduling to accommodate the spring traffic. But as we progress along, we'll give more updates. 38 parking project. This has been going on since mid-2015. 6% design development plans will go before the BCC on their 14th meeting. They've already looked at the conceptual and 30%. There's a few changes to some of the parking down at the Fort Panic area. Other than that, it remains the same. We expect approval and then final design by mid-July. We'll start construction in September after the summer season. Graton Beach restroom project. We have floated the conceptual idea to the owner of the land, which is FDEP, Department of Land Trust. They are reviewing our current land management plan and our proposed revised land management plan. Not a quick process, but we confer with them on a monthly basis to see how we're doing, how they're doing. We expect this project to move along at the pace it's at and hopefully get some approval to do some construction there. There was a little bit of grief over some complaints they received last year. That's why they had to review our current land management plan to make sure we were in compliance, what we were doing to solve the particular problems we have, which was a few vendor issues and some people doing less than desirable behavior on the beach. So I'll keep you updated on that as it moves along. NRDA Phase 3, these are projects that were identified several years ago or a few years ago. They included renovations to existing beach accesses and then one new neighborhood beach access in the Dune Allen area and one canoe kayak launch in what's called the Bay Ranchettes, which is north 283 on the bay. The two regional beach accesses are renovations to our existing restroom and picnic pavilions. The new neighborhood beach access is in between Vizcaya and Palms of Dune Allen. It'll be our typical beach access, upland boardwalk with a dune walkover, rinse shower, some bike racks, pretty basic. The canoe kayak launch is in a small parcel of land we own in that small neighborhood. It'll have a meandering concrete path with a ADA accessible area for it, and then a small pier and multi-level dock for canoe kayak launching. We are in the final stages of design on that. This is completely being done by FDEP through the NRDA program, which was some of the early BP oil money. And so we're strictly the recipient of a project by FDEP. We do have input into design. We made a few changes throughout the design process to make it more functional as we deemed, and they were acceptable to them. And once again, these projects will get started after the summer season. Beach cleaning. April, we were up about 10%. Yeah, this is kind of average for that year, about 6,300 bags for the month. There's our daily collection rate. You can see it spiked a little bit the first month, leveled out towards the end. I think that was Easter. May garbage collection, we were down. Once again, I attribute part of that trending down was because of our inability to get to a portion of the beach in the east end. There's our daily collection rate. As you can see, Memorial Day weekend picked up a lot. Beach code enforcement. April's citations and written warnings up considerably from last year. Don't really have any necessary what caused that. Just more people acting bad. In May, we about the same as the year before. As you can see, the increase was pretty dramatic from the month before. Our automated systems, we're still refining and making it work. We have all the collection processes in place. Now we're getting the reporting refined, and it's helping out a lot. Our guys do everything real time out there now as opposed to paperwork. Personnel, we were approved to hire two new beach code enforcement officers. That'll put us at 5 officers on the beach, help us to cover more of the beach more of the time. Our beach ambassador administrator guy is fully trained and contributing tremendously to our efforts. In late June, me and Jeff are scheduled to go to the Florida Association of Code Enforcement annual conference, where we'll pick up some of our continuing education credits and learn more about Florida's code enforcement efforts and how we can be better. We got 2 new vehicles. They should have been here already. We got word from the vendor that they have them. They're putting on the accessories that come with them. They might already be here by now and purchasing it as in their parking lot. But we'll use those And we'll keep our other 2 vehicles that we were going to surplus for our 2 new code enforcement officers. Next year we'll have 2 more vehicles in rotation. So we're getting more people, getting good training, and getting proper equipment. So, any questions about beach operations?
No, sir, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for your effort. Now, Jay, I was trying to hurry you earlier. So.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, council members. For the record, Jay Tusa, TDC ED. I have to say, before I just start my updates, I just want to just kind of give you a little update on me. I've been on the ground running for 2 months now, and literally I've been running. It's been quite exciting. I have met with a lot of people in our community, our industry, and this is a great place that we have here. It really is. Pam mentioned earlier the meet and greet that we had, and she mentioned people coming out that we normally don't see. And that's really nice. It's refreshing to see that we're getting that input from the community. It's so vitally important to what we do. So, meeting with the industry partners, and then just, I have to say, my staff, they're great. They are great staff, from beach operations to the sales and marketing side, visitor services. We have a great team in place at the TDC. So with that, I'll kind of go into some of my updates now, and then we'll talk a little bit more about strategic planning and stuff that I have on my list. So just to kind of get started on the list, Sandestin Water Tower updates. There's a little confusion at the last BCC meeting on the legality of the water tower with the messaging, and we have since resolved that. Spoke with both TDC Council and Walton County Council, and it is not for advertising and marketing purposes. The interpretation that I was given by planning was not correct. So we will be bringing that back forward to the BCC to roll that over to Sandestin at the next BCC meeting. And just real quick breakdown on that, we started that commitment with the water tower back in June 2012, and that's when we received the first invoice for that. And the contract was for 10 years at a cost of $144,500. So as of right now, for when we're planning to turn it over to Sandestin, that would be July 4th. And so that would be 4 years, 1 month. So that would be a cost of $59,004.17 would be the TDC's portion. So the balance of $85,495.83 is what Sandestin would take over as part of that agreement moving forward. So that's an update on that. 331 Bridge Park workshop. We had 2 workshops, one kind of up north in Freeport, and then one down south here at the Annex. And those meetings went very well. The one in Freeport was actually, I think, better attended than the one at the South Annex. But nevertheless, good information out of those workshops. People came out and gave us some suggestions that really weren't on the radar, on the plans. So now we're going to kind of go back and see how we can maybe incorporate some of those ideas. And some of them were basic things of, water and electricity out on the pier. And then even yesterday, somebody came up with a real broad plan of, why don't we look at putting a small marina in there? So really nice ideas, lots of things for us to consider. We talked about buying property on the north end, which we're not quite sure yet on those dollars, if that's going to work out. So anyway, but lots of great ideas. So when we kind of find out on what we can spend on the north end, if we can spend either $6 million, we'll kind of have something to move forward with. But as of right now, we're not moving forward with anything until SCANSA finishes the job, and then we'll come back when they're done, and then we'll move forward with our plans to embellish, the south project, and then maybe do something on the north end. So, but we're probably at least a year away from doing that, and we'll give you updates as we move along.
Are those drawings available online or anywhere? How do we see those drawings or the plans?
I don't think they're online, but I can get them to you. Probably Rich gave us some copies for these workshops because we actually had some outdated information, so it was good that we were able to access the new information because they've made some changes here and there. But I can send that information out to you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. New code enforcement positions, I'm not going to go on too much about that. Just Brian mentioned that earlier. Something that we really needed, so I'm glad that we were able to get that approved through the BCC. Moving forward, I think that'll help on the beach. We'll put these 2 people into place, and then we'll evaluate moving forward if there's a need even for more people. Code enforcement, I think, in my opinion, is critically important. From what I'm hearing from people in our community, our industry partners, it's definitely something that we need to do. The next item is the treasurer resignation. As you know, at this point, I sent out emails to all of you when it happened, but Art Miller resigned his position about a month ago. And since then, we have had Gary kind of assume the treasurer roles as his vice chair position. He's able to do that. So he's been doing that for the past month and will continue to do so until we find a replacement for Art. And then at that point, we will see how we will handle the treasurer position, if it will be that new person or if it will be somebody else already on the council assuming those duties. So I'll segue from the treasurer resignation and moving forward that kind of a little bit to what we've been doing with Dan Fenton, with Jones, Lang, LaSalle, and the strategic planning for the TDC. Dan and I have been working together for the past couple of months since I started, and we had a workshop. Actually, it was my second day on the job, kind of looking at different roles and structures for the TDC. And so Dan will be coming back at the next meeting for the TDC so we can kind of seek some approvals on moving forward and just kind of defining the roles of the TDC council members. And some of those items are, recommendation and present the annual budget to the board. So what we're going to suggest is that we have a liaison from the board that will work with me in presenting all the information from the TDC council. So it's just more of a collaborative partnership between staff and the TDC council. So that's one of the items. Give support to the ED's performance evaluation process to the Board of County Commissioners, and then recommend and present the annual marketing plan to the Board of County Commissioners, recommend and present the annual capital budget to the Board of County Commissioners, approve and monitor financial statements for the TDC, recommend and present the TDC goals to the board, and then attend the bi-monthly meetings, obviously. And then one thing that I'd like to add is an annual planning session, kind of a strategic planning session, so that will kind of also be in there. So those are just kind of some of the things that we'll be bringing back to the BCC at the next meeting, just so we can kind of define those roles as we move forward. And then strategic planning, I just kind of mentioned that as far as TDC council, but also for the organization. Just since I started about a month ago, we had a strategic planning meeting with the directors and with our agencies. We brought anybody in for an afternoon session, and we met for a half a day. And it was a really great process. We sat down and we kind of talked about all the issues that we're having internally, the challenges, also what we might need to do differently as an organization. And it was really great. It was really great. And just a few of these things, kind of the next few things that I'll kind of go through, director, content curator, those are kind of some of the things we talked about in this session. So director of public information position, in the strategic planning session, it was interesting because probably the top priority of that afternoon was having communications role certainly be elevated within the organization. Jim Bagby had that position approved before he left last October, and when I came in April, I said I was going to kind of put a hold on for a couple of months on how I want to proceed with those positions. So this position is critically important to the organization, so we will be moving forward with that in some form or fashion. I might tweak it a little bit just because he had tied visitor services to it, and I'm not sure about that, so we might make some changes a little bit here and there to it, but nevertheless, that position is important. The content curator position, John mentioned a little bit earlier about content, and I think we're missing the mark a little bit on content curation, creation as an organization. Our website needs some attention from a content standpoint. I mean, content is king, and where we are right now with social media and websites, with video. So I'm going to actually go back and ask the BCC for that position again and see if I can get that position approved, because I think it's important. Expanding the CEO forum, I think that's a great way to solicit input from our industry partners, so I'm going to continue with that. But I think I'm going to expand that a little bit to be, right now it's just more upper level bed tax collectors. And I'd like to see it be more representative of our community and include mid-range and small range bed tax collectors as well. So we can kind of just, get a big picture view of how things are within the community as related to the bed tax collectors. And then also I mentioned public relations earlier, how it's critically important for community relations, public relations. So I am going to be expanding and I'm not sure if it's going to be a committee or a forum, but a public relations entity like that where we can solicit input from our industry partners just like we do in all the other beach operations, marketing. But I think we need to have something like that for public relations as well. So we'll be looking to do that in the future. And then lastly, increased sales efforts. When I first started, I talked to all the directors and I talked to Pam. And the sales efforts, while they're good, I don't think for a size organization that we are, that they are big enough. So right now, the sales efforts make up about 7% of our budget. And I think we're about a third of our bed tax collectors can work with groups. And then even more so when you start getting into smaller groups like reunions and weddings. I think we need an increased sales effort. So I did put an extra $150,000 in the budget for next year so we can increase those efforts and step that up a little bit. And then strategic planning, like I just mentioned, that's kind of what I just went through when we had our strategic planning session and talked about that. I will be having a strategic planning session with the whole staff probably within the next few weeks to kind of talk about what we talked about at the director level and agency level, and just kind of introduce that to the staff and then get their input and how we can move things forward. So that's kind of where we are right now. Like I mentioned earlier, things are really, for me, it's an exciting time. I think things are going really well. I have a great relationship with all the commissioners. They've been very, very supportive of me, as have all the council members. I've met with you individually. It's just been really great, so I appreciate that. Thank you again for that. So any questions for me that I can answer?
Any questions?
Great. Good. Thank you.
You've hit the road running for sure. Any council comments today? I just want to say the sheriff's office has been on the back row. They've been so quiet, but I want to say again, thank you. Send our thanks to the sheriff for such a great spring break. I'm looking forward to the season, and I know we've got lots of intense issues concerning customary use and it's, incidences on the beach. But I know we're in good hands. And just want to say too that we have a remarkable county in that our sheriff and our TDC and our BCC work so well together. I was here when the BP oil spill hit my first term. It was scary times, but everybody came together, and it was really neat to be in a county that everybody works so well together. So, and thank you, board, because I know this is an unpaid position, and I appreciate you, and glad we had a quorum today. So, any other public comments? Okay. All right. So I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will second that.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. That was good. That was a good meeting. Y'all did it.
It was.
I left it on the side of the road and got a ride. So, but I think they've taken care of it for me. I called. I have AAA, fortunately.
We were expecting you to come sweaty.
Well, no, that was I drove in from New Orleans